Next topic. In this session, we are going to be discuss about constructors. Constructor. What is meant by a constructor? What is meant by constructor? Constructor is a special method. Constructor is a special method. We can consider the constructor is also one of the method that is similar to the method. When an object is created, it is going to be called automatically. When we are creating the object, it will get memory allocation. It will get memory allocation. See, constructor is similar to the method. It is called when an object is created. Object is created. See, when we are calling the constructor, memory of the object is allocated in the computer memory. A constructor is a block of code, block of code similar to the method. It is called when an object of the class is created. That is, when the class is instantiated, when the class is instantiated, that moment automatically it is going to be called for execution, which is a special method. Constructor is a special method. Constructor is a special type of method. Special type of method. Constructor is a special type of method which is used to initialize the object, which is used for initializing the object. See, every time we are going to be create the object by using the new method. When we are creating the object by using new method, at least one constructor should be called for execution. See here, we have some rules of constructor, that is constructor name, constructor name must be same as its class name. Whatever the class name we are giving, the same name should be given for the constructor. And it should not have any return type. It should not have any return type. It should not have any return type. See, a Java constructor cannot be abstract, static, final, and synchronized. What is abstract method? What is static method? We know that main method is a static method. So we have to discuss about this abstract, static, final, and synchronized still. So in the coming topics, we will discuss about it. That moment you will come to know. A constructor can, cannot be abstract, static, final, and synchronized. And synchronized. And synchronized. See, we have two types of constructors. Two types of constructors. Two types of constructor. One is default constructor, which also called as no arg constructor. One is default constructor, which also called as no argument constructor. And the other one is parameterized constructor. First, we will discuss practically what is meant by default constructor, what is a constructor and all. Then we will see this Then we will see this. What is there here? Taking class. I'm taking class. Here, constructor C demo is the class name I'll be taking. C demo is the class name I'm taking. See, generally, if I'm writing a normal method, so void is a return type. Void is a return type. Is a explicit return type, and then method name we are writing here, and we are writing the implementation of this here. Implementation of this. Implementation of method one. Okay. See, when we are writing the method, we have to write the return type and the method name. And if it requires, we are going to be write the arguments. If it is not required, no need to write the arguments. Now, writing a constructor, we are saying that constructor name is same as that of the class name. Constructor name is same as that of the class name, and it should not have any return type. It should not have any return type. See, class name and the constructor name should be same, and it should not have any arguments. Sorry, it should not have any return type. Simply, I'll be writing like this. This is a constructor. This is a constructor. We didn't pass given any arguments or parameters, which is called as constructor default constructor. Okay, so constructor name is same as that of the class name. Constructor name must be same as its class name. It should not have any return type. It should not have any return type, any external return type. And the constructor cannot be static, abstract, final, and synchronized. So that any of the keyword we didn't give here. And if it is a default constructor, when we are going to say one constructor is a default constructor, it should not have any arguments. It should be a constructor and it should not have any arguments. Then that will be called as default constructor. This is the implementation of default constructor. Let me consider implementation of default constructor. Okay, so I'll take this to the main class, and here I'm taking public static void main as well. I have to create the object for this particular class. Now, constructor constructor will call for execution, will call for execution automatically when we have created the object, when we have created the object. So now we have created the object. See, After creating the object, if I want to call this method for execution with the help of object by using dot operator, we need to call that method from this main method. But as this is a constructor, automatically it is going to be called for execution whenever we are creating an object to it. See, now I have created object to this particular class called as CDemo. Automatically it has to be called for execution. See, constructor execution will be happen here. Automatically, we no need to call it for execution. Constructor will call for execution automatically when we created the object to the class. When we created an object to the class. When we created an object to the class. No need to call that specifically by using object and dot operator. No need to call constructor with object and dot operator. Automatically it is going to be called for execution. Did you understand the difference between method 1 and constructor? Method 1 is a normal method until we are going to be called that method by using the object and dot operator. It should not be get called for execution. If it is a constructor, whenever we are creating an object to the class, automatically it is going to be called for execution. Now see, I am making the call to the method 1. So here calling method 1 for execution. Calling method 1 for execution. Now it is going to be called for execution. After calling the constructor, it is going to be execute this. After calling the constructor, it is going to be execute this. Now, first I have this method. I am initializing some values to the variable int a comma b, and here implementation of default constructor. A value I am initializing as 10, b value I am initializing as 20. So now those values I am going to be uh, display in this particular method, that is method 1. See here in logic, first we have written the method 1, and then we have written the constructor. But still, if you observe that whenever we are creating the object, automatically the constructor is going to be execute first. The constructor is going to be execute first. Then we are calling the method. Because of that, the method is going to be execute. It means, what I mean to say is, whatever it may be, the order of methods we have written in the class is not considerable. The order which we are calling the method is important for us. The order of methods in the order of methods, what we have written in the class, no need to consider. But the order of methods which we are calling in the main method for execution is important for us. Is important for us. Okay. Now see here. Here I have initialized the values to the particular variables. Have initialized the values to the particular variables. Now I am going to be call that. I'm sorry. I'm going to be print that, and I'll perform some task on that as well. Value of a. Value of a. Value of b. And I'm declaring one variable which is called as sum. A plus b. A plus b. The result. Addition result we are displaying here. This all the tasks I am performing on this particular one. This is all the tasks I'm performing on this method. Now see, I'll be saving this code and I'm going to be call it for execution. See, implementation of default constructor. It means First, it is going to be make a call to the constructor by default for execution. Here, first implementation of default constructor will be printing because that is a SOP statement we have given. It is going to be print that particular statement, and we have initialized some values to the variables. That is value 10 to the variable A and value 20 to the variable B, which is a uh, which we are saying that is a instance variables. These are instance variables here as well. Anywhere we have written we have written the variables within the class and outside of a method, which is called as instance variable, which is called as instance variable. Okay. Now, after initializing the value 10 to the variable A and 20 to the variable B, uh, we are we are making the call to the method 1 to execute. In the method 1, first it is going to be display method 1 implementation. That is implementation of method 1 SOP statement we have written. Because of that, only it is going to be display that particular content. And then value of A, value of B, I would like to print. I'm printing it. And I'm declared one variable called as sum. So just I'm writing some logic to add those two numbers and I'm printing the addition result. So everything it is giving us clearly. Main purpose of using constructor is to initialize the values to the variables. To initialize the values to the variables. This is a default constructor. This is a default constructor because we didn't pass any arguments to the constructor. We didn't pass any argument to the constructor. See, when it does not have any arguments, then it is called as default constructor. Default constructor or no argument constructor. See, a constructor which does not have any parameter or argument, any parameter or argument, which is called as default constructor. The syntax of default constructor, what will be writing? So class name, what we have, that class name and the parenthesis, we are going to be write implementation of constructor, body or implementation of constructor. Example, example. First output it is given to us. What is the output it has given to us? So this is what we can say as default constructor. Default constructor. What is the purpose of using default constructor? Purpose of using default constructor to initialize the default values to the object. Purpose of default constructor is to provide the default values to the object. Object like so for int we know that default value is 0. For float we know the default value is 0, 0.0 like that. So like a 0 for string will be having null, etc. Depending on the type. Depending on the type we are initializing it. Okay. So next, parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. What is meant by parameterized constructor? See, it should be a constructor and we need to pass the arguments for it, which is called as parameterized constructor. Default constructor, in a sense, where it does not have any arguments. The class name is same, the constructor name is same as that of the class name. It should not have any return type and it should not have any arguments or parameters as well. But if you are coming to the parameterized constructor, we have the argument. We have the arguments. That is the difference between default constructor and parameterized constructor. A constructor which has a specific number of parameters is called a parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. Okay, so we'll see that. We'll see that. CP demo constructor, parameterized constructor. Or I'll give this name as PC demo. Parameterized constructor demo. Just I'm taking class. I'm taking class. See here, as this is a parameterized constructor, we are going to be have the arguments over here. Arguments. Now this is a constructor. This is a constructor and this is a default constructor because it does not have any values. It does not have any arguments. Now I'll be giving the arguments n1 comma int n2. N1 comma n2. So just this is useful for initializing some values or we can able to take that we can able to uh, implement some logic. See here, n1, n2 already have declared. Just I am passing 100 for n1, n2 I am giving as 200. I am initializing the values, and here I am writing SOP statement system.out.println implementation of parameterized constructor. Implementation of parameterized constructor. And now void normal method. This is a parameterized constructor. This is a parameterized constructor. Is a parameterized constructor. If I'm not giving these values also, if I'm not giving these values, while we are creating the object, we are going to be give the values to. So just I have commented it. P method, I'll take parameterized constructor method. Method implementation, normal method implementation. Even though I'm not initializing the n value, n1 value and n2 value here, I'll be taking some variable here int sum. Sum is equals to n1 plus n2 I'll be taking and I'm giving this for execution. We are getting the error over here. We are getting the error over here. What is the error? It is not local. So this is a this is a variable we have. This is a variable we have which we didn't declare as of now because here I have n1, here I have n2. These two n1 and n2 variables become as local variable and its scope is within this particular method. Even though this is a constructor, we are going to be called this as a method. Constructor is also similar to the method. So within this only we'll be having the accessing of n1 and n2. So now here I'll be declaring num1, num2. I'll be declaring num1, num2. So now whenever I'm taking the n1 value, I'm initializing that value to num1 and num2 value I'm initializing to n2. Now, if I'm taking num1 here, and if I'm taking num2 here, it will not give any error. So for this particular class, I have to create the object now. PC demo main with the main method I have taken. With the main method I have taken. See here, this is a class. Whenever I'm creating object PC demo, if I'm creating like this, it is giving error. Actually, this is a format for us to create the object to the class. That is class name, object name, new class name. Actually, this is a constructor. See, but we'll be having the error. What is the error suggestions we have here? Add arguments to match. Add argument to match PC demo. That is a constructor. So this is a constructor where we have two integer arguments, we need to provide the values while we are creating the object. Then only it is going to be called that particular method for execution. Otherwise, it will not call for execution. Now, see, now it is going to be called for execution. Implementation of parameterized constructor. Implementation of parameterized constructor. See, now n1 value here in the constructor, sorry, while we are creating the object, we have given two arguments. One is 100 and the other one is 200. The first one, 100, is going to be assigned to n1 and 200 is assigned to n2. So after assigning those values here, now uh, n1 is going to be assigned to num1, n2 value is going to be assigned to num2. After executing these two instructions, implementation of parameterized constructor is going to be displayed. See, we'll be having more than one constructor, sorry, more than one argument or parameter in the constructor. More than one argument or parameter for constructor. So it is calling for execution now. Until we are passing the required arguments while we are creating the object, the constructor didn't call for execution. The constructor didn't call for execution. And also, while we are creating the object, it has given the error for us. And if we are seeing the suggestion for that, it is given suggestion like add two arguments, which is there as per this one, because we are creating the object for that particular class. Now, normal method pcd dot this method, if we are calling this method, if we are calling automatically it is going to be called for execution and it is going to be display addition. See here we didn't given any value for num1 and num2. Here n1 value 100 is assigned to num1 and n2 value it has been assigned to num2. So if you want to see that, we'll see even that as well. That values will print here. That is num1. num1 is 100, num2 is 200. So finally addition result we are getting, because this 100 is going to be assigned to this n1, and this 200 is assigned to n2. So based on that only we are getting these values. So here n1 is assigned to num1, n2 is assigned to num2. Any doubt you have in this? Any doubt you have in this? See, parameterized constructor, first it should be a constructor. First it should be a constructor. Constructor in a sense, constructor is a similar method, similar to the method whose name is same as that of the class name. Okay, we have written the constructor. If we are not passing any arguments or parameters, automatically, automatically it will become as default constructor. Default constructor. The default constructor are no argument, no constructor in a sense. It should not have any arguments. The constructor should not have any arguments. If we want to say that is a parameterized constructor, the constructor should have at least one argument or parameter. The constructor should have at least one argument or constructor. Then that will be called as parameterized constructor. Now I have taken two arguments here. With the respective data types, we have to pass the arguments. If it is a constructor or if it is a method, when we are passing the arguments to it, first we have to uh, pass along with the data type of that particular variable. And these arguments will be considered as local variables, and it will be having the scope to access within this constructor. Outside of this, we cannot able to access this n1 and n2 values. So because of that, some logic I am implementing here, that is I have taken two instance variables num1 and num2. Whatever it may be the n1, n2 values we have, that n1 and n2 values we are assigning to num1 and num2 respectively. Num1 and num1 and num2 variables respectively. So that is initialization we have done, and we are printing this system.out.println implementation of parameters constructor just to print the content. And for that particular class, whenever I'm creating the object, we know that if we want to execute the if you want to call the constructor for execution, when we are creating the object, automatically it is going to be call for execution. But if it is a parameterized constructor, whatever may be the arguments we have taken here, its related values we have to initialize here. Its related values we have to initialize here. If we are not initializing those values, the constructor is not going to be called for execution, and it is not going to be create the object for that particular class as well. That what the error we have seen. So when we are passing those two arguments, then it is considered this one. And if you see here, this is a normal method. We are going to call the normal method as usually. See here, by using the object and dot operator, we are calling it for execution. And now if you see here, num1 and num2, these two values we have get assigned here, and we are performing some logic, that is adding of those two numbers and displaying those two numbers. Okay, this is the result we are getting. Any doubts still?